Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And coming on for a fifth time is one of my SiftPop friends and co-collaborators. It's Jake Bourgeois. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. And we love shameless plugs on here. So, Jake, what would you like to shamelessly plug for everybody before we get started?
Uh, well, I like you said, SiftPop. So if you're interested in animation, I do a weekly animation column. Oh, not weekly, monthly. Good Lord, animation column there, uh, as well as one or two other things a month. We just posted my Arcane season 2 review. Um, and then I've got a letterbox, J Bourgeois, Bourgeois, and I'm trying to get more active on Blue Sky. So I think that's the hyphen, Jake hyphen Bourgeois at bluesky.com. I should probably add that to my letterbox
There
profile,
you
huh?
go. But so you should definitely check out Jake's work. I love animation. I appreciate the films that you wind up highlighting on Sif Pop. But and Arcane's definitely pretty big right now, so I need to get around to watching the second season. It is on my watch list. But let's get started thinking about how we like to watch things. Jake, what is your preferred environment for watching a movie?
So definitely in a theater.
Mhm.
Um, but I love, obviously not good for the business. Been a bad look for the last however many times. Like this is happening too often for it to be a good sign. But I
Yeah.
love being the only, like having the entire theater to
Yeah.
myself because I'm like one of those like sound Nazis, if that's a way I can say it. Like, where I've got the rabbit ears up, and like any small noise just ticks me off. That's why I loved watching A Quiet Place, even though there were people, everybody was
Mhm.
just silent. It was great. That's why recently, though, Conclave, I went to see Conclave,
Mhm.
and I was in the back row of the front, if that makes
Yep.
sense.
Mhm.
And there were these two elderly couple. There was this elderly couple, not like they were together. I think they were just friends, sitting there. And you could hear sort of the commentary from across the whole like aisle thing. That, oddly enough, enhanced my experience. Just hearing their little running commentary in the background. But that's a rare occasion. Usually
Yep.
that pisses me off. So I love where I can just sit back by myself in an abandoned theater. It's great.
There you go. And that's a nice segue into talking about your standards for watching a movie in a theater. So definitely quiet, preferably alone. Anything else?
I don't really have a high bar because obviously with AMC A list, it is a 40-minute drive to my AMC, but that's what I get for living in Iowa, in a small town. But does it look interesting? Um, I'll go to the odd Marcus or indie theater if it's
Yep.
interesting enough. But like with A list having three um, slots to go off of, it really is. Does it look interesting?
Yep.
Because and that's also like informed. Even if it doesn't look great, I'll give it a shot.
Mhm.
Like I'm like, because like I'm a sucker for a World War II movie. So Whitebird, eventually that came. I went into
Mhm.
it knowing this isn't going to be great, but it's got a World War II subplot. So
Yeah.
I'm interested and I'm going to go see it. And it was fine. But on the other side, I haven't seen any of the Venom movies.
Yep.
None at all. So when uh, The Last Dance comes out, not interested.
Yep.
Because I don't find that interesting. I'm not interested in what they're doing. I get what people like about it. I know what people like about it. I don't think I'd like that. So
Mhm.
I stay away from
That's very fair. Now, thinking about obviously like emotions are a big part of movie watching. What's a film that'll always get an emotional reaction out of you?
Yeah, it's funny because it was this thing where like, oh, I don't cry during movies.
Mm.
It's not like the toxic masculinity. I don't cry because cry. I just didn't. I can watch. I'm one of the few people who've seen extremely loud and incredibly close twice because I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't. But that movie doesn't make me cry. So that's another thing. But I went to the depressing side first and then changed tack. I'm like, let's go happy. And I didn't want to cheat because everybody said Paddington 2, something like that. So that feels cheap. So I want to highlight a movie that I think people might have forgotten actually happened. And that's the Peanuts movie. The Peanuts movie is
Oh
great.
yeah.
And it just makes me so happy.
Hmm.
That movie just is pure joy. I it's so much fun. I wasn't even a big like, you know, you knew who the Peanuts were,
Yeah.
and you knew it started from a comic strip. That I had that, but I wasn't like a huge Peanuts fan. I'm
Mhm.
Calvin Hobbes forever, but it's just like you sit down, you watch that movie, and it just fills you with just immense joy all the time, every time.
Absolutely. I have my copy of it up there, also around the Paddington movies because alphabetical. But no, the Peanuts movie is so charming and sweet, and it just makes you feel just all warm inside.
Yeah,
Now, this is a two-parter. What's a film series do you wish would continue that has stopped? So we'll start with that part.
yeah. This was an interesting one because, like, a lot of those movies that you're like, oh, I want another one. You got one, and then it never really got to two, so it's not
Mhm.
really a series. They keep saying they're gonna make Helac 3, so I'm gonna hold out hope for that and
Mhm.
not take that one because maybe that means they're holding it out. And I'm gonna go on a twist on this
Okay.
um, because. Uh, Muppet movies back in the day, after the first one, you had a couple,
Mhm.
sort of, take Manhattan and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then they got into a great part of the
Yep.
Muppet series, the Muppet literary adaptations.
Yep.
Not really, probably technically a series, but give me more of those. Like,
Yes.
give me more
Agreed.
Muppet Treasure Island. Give me more Muppet Christmas Carol. There are so many, like, you could draw from so many
Mhm.
IPs that are just, copyrights expired. Go to work. Like, you know, we need to take back the blood and honey. Like, have somebody clever do something new. Get back into that bag. Because even on a smaller scale, this is like super niche. And you had to have had the VHS for this to count. But did you have Muppet Classic Theater?
I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that.
Um, it's one of those Muppets things that's sort of tied up in distribution.
Mhm.
But, if you uh, were to take a tube and try to look for said uh, Muppet entry, you might be able to find it in its
Yep.
entirety. And it's one of those that we had all the time. We had on VHS and we watched it all the time. I
Mhm.
particularly when my sister and I were babysitting, just the
Mhm.
stuff in the basement for the kids to go crazy over. And it's amazing. So I need an extension of the Muppet literary classic cinematic universe.
I 100% agree. I would love that. And just, I will be watching Muppet Christmas Carol in a indie theater next weekend because it is the season. But Now, the opposite. What's one of those film series that should have stopped but keeps going?
Yeah, you know how I said I wasn't going to take the easy way out last time? I'm taking the easy way out this time. I've seen two of the Fast movies all the way through, even the good ones. Like I've seen one, and I've seen three, and I've seen parts of a lot of the others. But not interested. Not like even with like directors that are I find like David Leitch
Yeah.
did it technically a spin-off. Not interested. Don't care. Uh, so yeah, I have no interest in those, and those can stop because eh, 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 because I'm
They've jumped the shark
on the
too
rock
many
and
times.
yeah, I'm just out on the rock. I think the Rock's finally jumped the shark, and Vin Diesel's. I don't care. So those could go.
So agreed. Now, thinking about, we get a lot of biopics, historical, like drama, stuff like that. But what's a historical event you would like to see get a film adaptation?
Um, this might be a bit of a cheat because it might be an event that sort of strays into biopicky
Okay.
territory. But last Christmas, my mom always gets me a book for Christmas as
Mhm.
part of the thing, and big history nerd. Um, so I think it's something that was brought up on one of Mike Rowe's podcasts, a story that was told, I believe. It's a book called The Mysterious Case of Rudolph Diesel. Now, if the last name sounds familiar, you're correct. This is the guy who created the diesel engine. Um,
Interesting.
and he was on a boat in 1913, and then he disappeared from said boat. He was going from like Germany or Belgium to the UK. Disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. Uh, the ending is wild because he sort of goes through like his theories on what happened and like, what's the disappear? But it's, I think you could do something with the disappearance and like while trying to figure out what happened, you know, tie it back to the moments in his life, like all the different players that might have been involved and why they were like angry or mad at him. I think that could be really interesting because it's something with um, a lot of far-reaching implications as far as what happened, sort of a Edison Tesla type deal. Um, but
This sounds saucy. I love it. I
oh,
want
it's
to
a
watch
great.
this movie.
It's the book, yeah, and the book's great too. It's a little, um, might be a little dense. But
Hmm.
it's short, so it's not like long, but it is like nonfiction.
Yeah.
And they're going through explaining everything, and have to explain why this was big and all the history. But it's a fascinating read, and I think would make a great movie in the right hands.
That sounds very interesting. And the mystery of the missing Diesel Man. That's what they should call the movie. There we
Yeah,
go.
I think this is why. Yeah, because the book they'd have to come up with something because the book title's too long for a movie title.
There you go. And we have to make it spicier. We have to make it sound
Yeah,
interesting and fun. Now
man
actually thinking
overboard.
about who do you think who's a person that you think deserves to get a biopic made of them?
Yeah, this is my Iowa coming out. Um, do you know who Dan Gable is, Shane? Have you heard the name?
I don't think so.
Yeah, this is a man who put together one of the most dominant Olympic performances of all time.
Interesting.
Munich Olympics, obviously famous for many reasons.
Yes.
Uh, he's a wrestler, not like WWE, like actual college or Olympic wrestling. Uh, not only did he win gold, Not only did he win every match that he was in,
Hmm.
he didn't allow his opponents to score a single point.
Holy crap. That's
Yes,
dominance right there.
that is dominance. And his whole life is sort of fascinating. He has tragedy uh, at a family level, at a young age, has to go through some adversity just by the fact that, varsity university rules worked a little different. Freshmen couldn't wrestle. And then dominates in college, except for the one that got away. Um, does the Olympic thing, and then goes on to be one of the most dominant coaches in any sport ever. Um, and they love a sports documentary. There's not documentary, sports biopic.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, they've done wrestling once with the Steve Carell movie and the Channing Tatum
Foxcatcher.
movie. Thank you. It was escaping me. That's great. And I think this is a great, because it's sort of like boxing. It's a one-on-one type of sport, you
Mhm.
versus the other guy. And this is a guy that just dominates the other guy. And I think that's fascinating.
What's interesting is so you mentioned him, which I would be down for this movie for sure. So there are two professional wrestlers whose names are based off of his name. Because there's a wrestler in WWE right now, Chad
One
Gable,
of, oh,
and
okay.
his ring name is based off of apparently is
Yeah.
based off of
Well,
Dan
WWE get
Gable.
a lot of those college wrestlers who don't want to go into UFC, who don't get drafted.
Well, and Chad Gable is a former wrestler from like
Yep,
Northern Michigan. He was
yep,
an Olympian and stuff like that. So
yep.
very interesting. I'd be down. You sold me. You're selling me on a lot of things today, Jake. There you go. Now, thinking about, we talked a lot about theaters towards the beginning of the interview, but thinking about streaming services, what's your go-to streaming service? And what features and content do you desire most out of a streaming service?
This is going to be a bit of a cheat, I guess. I'm
Mhm.
going to have to go with Hulu because um, I'm someone who's never had, like, once I got out of college and you had sort of the cable in the dorm and all that, once I've sort of been on my own, I've never paid for cable. I've
Uh,
always been like a streaming TV person. And, YouTube is the best, I think, at that. But Hulu got to the point where everything was costing the same amount. And with the Disney stuff, and everything you get with that whole bundle, it was
yeah.
just so much. It was just so worth it. So I think I have to go Hulu for that. But I do think, besides the fact that they're my live TV provider,
Mhm.
they are creeping up if they haven't already caught HBO with their FX partnership as far as the
Mhm.
content they're producing. Uh, like Shogun is the best show of the year, and it's not even close. Um, they just do a lot of stuff that I've really been enjoying. Um, so yeah, and as far as like what I want, just give me quality and give me enough, because
Yeah.
like Apple's got some good stuff, but there's just not enough of it for
Yeah.
to keep me interested at this point. Um, so yeah, that would be my choice.
Yeah, I get that, especially with like the live TV option. I had Hulu Live TV for a while, and that FX collaboration is just so good, and it's making me so sad that a whole bunch of these shows have been ending over the past year. Um, whether it was like Reservation Dogs, and now what we do in the shadows is ending. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. That's honestly probably my favorite show on television right now is What We Do in the Shadows. So no, they have some really good quality, and now it's just getting folded into Disney Plus. It's
Yeah.
all together. And I like Hulu's interface, to be honest, because some of them are trash. Some of
Yeah,
them are just really
it's
bad.
not as good as YouTube. That's the thing where YouTube's just better. Like
Mhm.
they're like if it was purely like operating, YouTube's still better for that.
Mhm.
But like I said, with the Disney Plus, and I don't use the ESPN Plus quite as much. I've been meaning to call and see if I can swap out the ESPN leg for the
Mhm.
HBO leg because HBO is great, but that's one that I pop in and out on, depending on
Yeah,
what's going on. So, but yeah, it's just the breadth of what they offer. I think for
there you
me.
go. Completely understandable. Now, we talked about movie series that you would love to get more of, but what's a television series you would love to see revived for more seasons?
Yeah, there were. It came down to two for me as far as what I liked, what I saw, and one's just more realistic.
Mhm.
Even though it's been a while and it's not happening, I still think you could do it and be fine. Uh, I think this was after I did Disney Plus for a minute.
Mhm.
I went back around and watched Agent Carter. And it's great,
Mm,
and it ends on a cliffhanger.
yeah.
And I need them to be able to finish their show. Uh, and it shouldn't be that hard, honestly.
Mm.
Come on. I know it's been a minute, but that can't be that hard.
Oh, I really enjoyed that show a lot because it only got two seasons, right?
Mhm. And they're not very
Disappointing.
long. Yeah,
No,
so just give us like 8 more episodes, and
it's
it
like
doesn't have to be that expensive.
we want Peggy back, but you said there was two that you had in mind.
Yeah, the other one, this was must have been my freshman year of college because it was right when I got Netflix, back when like Netflix, yes, there was the catching up on all the TV shows and
Yeah.
the international stuff, which I think was is underlooked when people look back at that time. So one of the shows I caught up on, I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. This would be good. Was Lie to Me. Um,
Mm,
And Lie to Me is great. People don't know Tim Roth. He can see people's, he can tell people lie based on, what they do, and
yeah.
so it all comes down to why are they lying, to sort of figure out the mystery. One of those crime procedural type deals that are like. But I caught up just to find out it recently been canceled in
Oh
favor of
man.
free. So I'm like, what do you mean? I don't understand. So I want that back too. So
That is very fair. That's the worst feeling in the world is like you discover a show and you catch up on it. It's like this didn't end. It got canceled. So frustrating. Now, we've talked about movie series making a comeback, TV series making a comeback. Who's that actor that you would love to see make a comeback?
yeah, this might have been my toughest one. I usually don't Google much. I had to Google this. I'm like, who counts as like having gone away? I need
Mhm.
them back. Uh, I think I'm not the greatest actor in the world. Uh, very much has a lane. And I know she's doing other things now, and she doesn't need to act because she's got all the money. But, you know, find some projects that work for you, Emma Watson.
Yeah.
She's been gone for a minute. Uh, and I just wanted to find something that she likes and can use her. Because I think she's got a lane. She needs to be in that lane.
Mhm.
And I think she can still put in good performances. And, obviously she's got all the Harry Potter money. She's on to, she's doing her own thing. But, just every once in a while, pop back up.
Appreciate seeing her come back. I feel like the last thing I saw her was what, Little Women? I feel like that
I
was
think so.
probably the last thing.
Yeah. And that was 5 years ago.
It was 5 years ago. Yeah, because that came out when like end of the year 2019, right?
Yep.
That was even all before COVID.
Yeah.
Crazy. But Jake, my last question for you. So, say that if you met someone new and they had to get to know you by
Mm.
watching movies, what three movies would you pick for them to watch?
So went to my favorites list because I figured that's a good place to start.
Yep.
But I also knew my taste, like as far as my favorite movies of all time, like if you look at that list, especially at the top there, it's like very bipolar as far as the types of movies I like. So that gave me an easy starting point. I just went with the top two. Silence of the Lambs,
Hmm.
love me a dark psychological thriller, great performances, all that stuff. Um, and then Princess Bride, completely opposite. Just feel good, whimsical,
Mhm.
just magical movie experience. That left me with sort of two, one of two routes. Do I go animation? Do I go action, like
Mhm.
adventure? Oh, I was meant to make a decision before we hopped on here, and I didn't. We talked animation at the start. I'm gonna go action. Let's go
Okay.
Die Hard. Give me a fun action movie, like just because there's like action. There's so much cool stuff you can do with like a great action movie,
Mhm.
scratching a particular itch. Uh,
Yeah.
so, did I actually say what it was?
Die Hard. Yeah.
All right, cool. I can't remember. It's a long day. Uh, but yeah, and same sort of thing as the Silence of the Lamb thing, because you have the quippy. It sort of rolls everything into one
Mhm.
if you think about it, because you've got the quippiness of like a Princess Bride. You got a villain in the Silence of the Lamb, and just like the dialogue is
Mhm.
so tight and so great, and you've got those memorable. Uh, so yeah, those would be the three.
No, two of them are at least in my like high top 100. I love Die Hard and The Princess Bride so much, and Silence of the Lambs is pretty high up there too. All great films and all hit a very specific kind of feel to them. And we live in a generation where a lot of people do love that like really dark thriller kind of. That's why everybody will just true crime.
Oh yeah, I love a good courtroom drama, like
Yeah.
psychological thing. Oh,
But yeah, so those are all my questions, Jake. So it's now your time to ask me a question. So what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
so we were sort of talking about how Muppet Christmas Carol's coming out. You're looking forward to watching that.
Yes.
Everybody's sort of got their holidays, but I'm going to tweak that a little bit because everybody's got their holiday, stuff that's in that rotation. Is there like outside of that Christmas, Thanksgiving, maybe Halloween type thing, is there like an odd traditional movie that you have to slot in during a certain time of the year?
So what's funny is I don't do this very often, but I feel like every St. Patrick's Day I should watch Darby O'Gill and the Little People. I just love that movie. But the real answer is Valentine's Day because my wife and I always pick a movie each to watch on Valentine's Day. And
Oh, good. That's better. I thought you were saying you watched Valentine's Day on
no,
Valentine's Day. I'm
no.
like,
And for years, my pick was always The Princess Bride because it has everything, including romance, it has true love. And my wife always picks Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which that movie like makes
good
me laugh a
choice.
lot.
Yeah.
But Princess Bride's definitely up there. That's my go-to Valentine's Day movie, is because it's just so charming and it's just like as you wish.
No arguments here.
No arguments here. But that was a good question. Thank you, Jake. And thank you so much for coming on for a fifth round here on Lost in the Wasteland.
Thanks for having me back.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.